you still, no matter how high you get, you need to understand how it all works. So finding the joy in creating, like having that creative drive to learn what all of these parts up front, understanding that you're not going to have to shoulder all of it forever, but it is going to be something you need to know forever. You're going to have to understand them thoroughly, and there's no other way to do that than to just sort of dive in and get that knowledge.
In this episode of the Money Awareness Podcast, I sit down with Cameron Skura, a senior relationship manager supporting the media vertical and film industry at Bank of Canada. Cameron's journey in the media industry spans from a 10-year acting career to his current role in banking. Cameron shares valuable insights on navigating financial choices, exploring funding avenues, and building a team of professionals to support your creative business. Tune in to gain valuable financial strategies and insights for your creative journey. Hello and welcome to the Money Awareness Podcast, also known as TMAP. Embark on a journey with us as we explore the world of money patterns and how they interconnect with your unique creative mind. Our goal is to help you unlock your prosperity by making one creative decision at a time. I am your hostess, Victoria Mateo. Let's get started. Every episode, we're trying to go from point A to point B. Point A being a place where we are at right now, and point B, somewhere that ideally we want to be or we're aiming to be. Because this is ultimately a map. Point A being detached, and point B being interested about our money management and how we plan our business. A lot of creatives are very much detached. Detached meaning just, I don't want to deal with that, right? And ultimately, when we're building businesses in the creative fields, we still are building a business. But how do we feel interested about it, right? When it's something that we learned that it was tedious and not so entertaining. And this is kind of like what I am working on with each client whenever I meet with them is, there are ways to make it more appealing. And for you to be interested, is this something that you see a lot? People just being detached from the money aspect of their business?
And my clients will be producers, and a lot of them take in producing a film. Saying a producer is a really sort of like a blanket terminology for somebody who is on the administrative and creative and architectural side of making films. So there's the business affairs side of things, which is setting up cash flows, it's setting up budgets and really working out the specifics in terms of the financials to make a production. Then there's somebody who's going to be arranging for call times and setting up call sheets and really getting into that component of it. And then there's some times where they play more of a creative role, where they're sitting with directors and they're really helping to create this image of what the film is going to be. And all of them are important. And often our producers are focused on the creative side, right? They want to get into film and producing film to tell a story. And a lot of times what we find, especially with emerging producers, is that they're great at telling that story or getting involved in the creative process. But when they come to a bank and we start to ask questions about the business affairs side of things, a lot of them just don't really know where to start. So I think that's something that we see all the time, where we have these really great conversations with producers or with creatives or somebody who runs an agency or a lot of the creative businesses, and they're excellent at what they do in the creative side. And their gap is often that financial piece, that understanding of the nuances and the cash flows and the way that the business actually operates.
So because you are very much supporting these businesses in their funding and their financing, what tips do you have for these creatives to craft a good business plan?
I had a career in acting prior to a career in banking. Now I speak a lot in front of emerging artists of all natures, musicians and filmmakers, actors, all of that. And I kind of say the same story, which is when I was acting, I used to think that my talent was just going to be enough. Like I would just be so good at what I was doing that I would just get hired and things would just fall into place. And I didn't ever look at it like a business. I never had routine. I never woke up at the same time. I didn't even do a daily practice of my craft. And that's essential to anything that you do. I look at all of my clients and the work that I do now. And the film industry is very much a business. It's seeing it from the bank. It's 100% a business. Without that technical and financial acumen, the story doesn't get told. And I wish that when I was younger, and I try to say this to whoever I speak to, is you have to wear multiple hats as a creative. You have to be able to take off the creative hat, which you can leave on set or leave in front of the canvas or leave in the studio, and you got to put on a business hat at certain points. And creating a business plan is something that I always recommend because you have to know where you fit in the industry, and you only are able to do that when you do an analysis of what market you're in. I'm in the Toronto market. I'm in the LA market. Where do I fit in that market? Where do I want to go within that? What are my competition? What are some of the factors that could be potentially a barrier? Example, strikes. How do I mitigate that? How do I show up every day? What does that look like to me as an artist? What are some things that I can do that are going to support me both financially, but also aligned with my craft that may not be doing the exact task?
And as creatives, it can be very daunting to navigate financial choices. Like sometimes it's like, okay, but I don't even know where to start, right? That's where I feel there's a lot of value in looking for support and people that know,
Yeah,
and also trying to be curious about how can I make this information more appealing for my journey, right? One of the strategies that I recommend to clients is, okay, so in the work that you do, what is your path, right? What is the creative process for you? So you do this first, you prep, you start brainstorming, or like, what is it? And once we see it in relation to what we are doing, then it becomes less daunting. Once we know it, especially being creative, it gives us power. We are going to go out there like to the bank and ask for financing, knowing, you know what, I have this already. And it can be so tangible in that way. And it also makes it fun because
yeah,
it's tough to talk about these things and just not feeling like we're aligned with it, right?
yeah,
So it doesn't always feel so easy for people to have access to information.
yeah.
How do you suggest creatives explore all the avenues that they have?
How you said, it can be overwhelming at first, even creating a business plan. And I had to do this with myself, where it's like, what's harder, spending the time to focus on what you want out of life and out of a career, or suffering through a job day in and out, or a life that you just don't want to have? You have to put in the effort. You have to also immerse yourself in what's out there through the granting bodies, the bursaries, any sort of partnerships, any of the organizations that support a demographic potentially that you're a part of. Right? There's a bunch of different bodies that have been put into place that are federally funded to help people. There's workshops. There's funding for development, depending on what industry you're in. There's music grants um, across the board. So it is a job. It's your job if you want it to be your career, right? Because there's it's not just to support you. Eventually, these programs are put into place so that you bring value to the Canadian or the American or whatever market you're a part of, right? They're put in place so that you establish the skill sets that you're going to eventually give back to the community. So don't think of it either as like, all of these things to just like, oh, it's a grant, it's all coming to you. It's a reciprocal relationship as well. So you can't feel guilty about taking on as much as is available to you, because that is going to help you develop to be able to give back to the community, the artistic community. It's important for anyone at any point in their career. It's aligning with the right professionals. It's building a team around you that you connect with or you vibe with. but also that are going to be able to elevate your understanding of things. So you've got to be able to find a team of people that have knowledge, that have understanding, that you can go to, be it lawyers, accountants, banking professionals, creative professionals. Find people who believe in what you're doing as well, because they're going to be the ones who are going to put in the extra hours when you need it.
I think that is crucial for everything that we do,
Mm-hmm.
and it brings joy to our life as well. Knowing that someone has your back,
Yeah.
you know, this is crucial also for our learning curve, right? The amount of things that I have learned from you by working at the bank and being an actor,
Yeah.
like I wouldn't have had it if I didn't know you. You know what I mean? And this is the same process in your business, and this applies to every business, not
Yeah.
only the creative businesses.
I had a friend, and he had basically recommended a way to like restructure the mind in terms of career. So he was like, okay, forget about like what, like he's like, forget about everything. In a perfect world, like what would you want to do? Let's just say that you have that right now. I'm going to interview you right now, but you're in your role. You just got this role. For me at that time, it was Batman. I was like, okay, Batman would be a great role. He's like, and the more key to it all is like the key to the value of this is for it to be extremely specific. Because if you say like I want to be a CEO or I want to be an actor, okay, but well, what kind? And once we established that, I was like, okay, so you just did this, and he started interviewing me. Oh, how's it going? How does it feel? And he's like, okay, cool. What did you do just before this? And I was like, oh, well, I did this role and this is okay. And then what did you do just before that? Oh, I did this thing. Oh, that was great. How did it feel? How did you get there? And we basically from the goal, walked it backwards. And what was interesting about that was instead of me thinking forwards and thinking, what do I want to do next? I created a pathway of opportunities that were tangible that I know that I can do. Often we're looking forward into what's next, what's after that, what's after that, instead of focusing a lot of the energy on being specific about what it is you want as a goal and then walking backwards. And eventually you create this tangible path once you have a really established, clear goal. No matter what you're doing, even if it's not creative, you have it in your mind what those goals are. They start to align because you start to bring people just become your allies, your champions that help guide you towards that path, so long as you're very clear on what that path is.
You achieved becoming like Batman.
But hopefully in 15 years it'll be a different conversation.
Batman or Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, one of those two. Yeah.
This is something I encourage people to do. In my practice, I use an exercise that actually you can get for free through my website, and it's called the grand scale imagining exercise. And what you do is imagine that you have won the lottery,
Right.
and then you have to answer different questions to be very specific about how do you feel, how are you going to use that money. And I revisit this exercise at least once a year, and every time I do it, it changes because it changes as we grow, right? And we have achieved things, but it really opened up my mind on what were the things that I really wanted to happen.
Yeah.
And also it made me realize that, okay, but these things that I thought I wanted were not as important, because by doing this exercise I ended up spending this imaginary money in this other things. So this is more important to me right now. So I totally agree, these kind of things are so crucial, and it's very important also for your business plan,
Yeah.
for your target client, right? Like just creating a client persona or like a business persona. Oh, it's imaginary, and
Mhm.
this hasn't happened to me, but doesn't mean that it won't,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Now, a special message from our valued sponsors. We are so grateful to our sponsors for playing an integral role in the Money Awareness podcast. Now, welcome back.
Being a creative business and going to the bank and trying to get financing opportunities, we still have to get that revenue going. in order to pay back the bank.
Yeah.
And what do you recommend?
Yeah, so speaking from a bank perspective, a bank is basically going to lend based on cash flow, and there's no real outside of that. So a Schedule A bank, what they want to look for is how much how much debt serviceability is available from this business without putting it into a tough situation. So you're basically looking at the ongoing cash flow, the forecasted cash flow, and then building out, a creative financial solution to help build that. So an example would be if we have a VFX studio and they've done a great job at creating good revenues and they want to buy a server. We basically are just looking to see if we give them, $1, $2, $3 million, will they be able to service that over the useful life of that asset? When somebody's coming at the beginning of their career, a lot of what they're trying to do is they're creating this pipeline or this vision of their business and they believe in it. So in those situations, you're going to have operating accounts, you're going to have credit cards, but a lot of the time they're going to different organizations within Canada. I can speak to, I don't know the US system as well, but there's banks that are federally mandated to help businesses grow and scale. So one of them is the Business Development Bank of Canada, so that's BDC, and they have programs for working capital. They're still looking at cash flow. But what they want to see goes back to as well the business plan. Like, how thoroughly have they thought about this? The challenges. What are some of the potential risks? How do they mitigate those risks? Where do they place in the market? Where does this business really cut its teeth in terms of the client persona? I guess is one way of looking at it. Like, how well do they understand their market? And how realistic is their projections, right? So there's specific loans for up and coming businesses, but there's other organizations. Some people go through the venture, like through venture capital, or doing a seed round, or raising capital through friends and family, or other more established businesses.
Let's say you're established business, not so big, but you want to improve your business finances. From the bank's perspective, what would you expect this business to present?
There's sort of like two main products, right? There's term facilities, which would be over a duration of time. So like a mortgage is a term, right? Or there's operating facilities, so like a line of credit. It's pretty similar with personal. There's just nuances based on the business and the size of the business. But effectively, there's term facilities and there's operating facilities. Operating facilities are like open ended, and term facilities have a set payment schedule, a set term, a set amortization, etc. So if you came to me as a business and you're looking for something for like ongoing, you would be getting an operating facility. So let's just say that you are a VFX studio. So every time we need to put up capital up front, we create this product, and then we need to wait 90 days from the time that it's finished till the time that we're paid. So it's a 3-month period where we're putting up all our capital, putting up all these people, and then we have to bridge that cash flow cycle. So that would be a perfect facility for something like that as an operating line. So what we would want to see is, what are your accounts receivable current to the day? I want to see like what's due to you, what's a traditional cash flow cycle, what's your projected revenues going to be over the next year, 2 years, what are some, and then looking at their accounts receivable, like what's the quality of them. When a company's growing, right, they often need this because they're getting into business with bigger people. So like Disney can dictate the terms. If they don't want to pay you, they're going to pay you. But if they don't pay you for 100 days, you're not going to tell them to go fly a kite. You're going to wait till the first day and have them pay you. So for a smaller business that service these mega companies like the streamers of the world, like the huge studios, you need something to be able to weather these periods. All size companies have these, but especially as you're growing, because you're hiring new people to manage this, explosion of work or growth of work. A term facility is like if you have an actual asset and you would finance it over the useful life. Example, I want to put $500,000 of computers in my office and they're going to be good for about 5 years, then they're obsolete, or whatever the period is. we finance those in terms. So we're saying the useful life is 5 years. We'll lease it to you for 5 years. We'll buy it up front, lease it back to the company over 5 years. And then at the end of the useful life, we'll sell it to you for $1 and it's on your balance sheet. And the reason people utilize a facility like this is because they want to stay cutting edge. They need to get the technology. Maybe it's a green screen. Maybe it's, a range of different things for musicians. Maybe it's a band that's going on tour and they need to have a mixer, and the mixers are, $1 million or $500,000, whatever it is. Or you're a venue needs to buy a stage. You do it through a facility like this. And there's two positives to this. You get the capital to scale your business. And then on the other side of it, you're able to expense all of your lease payments against your revenues. So you're really doing it for a number of reasons, but you have a great strategic tax benefit to it. And then as well, if you're going to buy a building or other assets that are long-term, then there's those products as well. But effectively, what you want to see is, what's the revenue that this asset is going to bring to the business? Does it make sense? If it doesn't bring what they're expecting, where do they stand with their existing revenues to be able to facilitate or to be able to service the debt throughout? So it's sort of nuanced, but those are really the keys to what a bank is looking at. Like why are they doing it? Can they support it? What benefit is it going to bring? And what are some of the challenges and mitigants to those challenges?
This is amazing information for I know a lot of people don't know this, okay, first of all, but apart from that, because I have worked in the finance department of these companies, I've seen first how beneficial these are.
Mm-hmm.
Second, how challenging it can be if you don't have a good streamlined finance department that is carrying this, because this is crucial, and a lot of these creative companies really don't want to pay attention to that, and a lot of their cash flow don't they decided won't go to the finance department,
Yeah,
and this is crucial for the success of their business, because
yeah,
then every time you have to present these documents, they're ready because you have someone that's dedicated to that, and this is part of that investment of your business to
yeah,
get to that place of success. And also investing in your leadership to know that this information is available. If you consult with experts that will tell you this is the key
yeah.
for your growth, and if you don't, then you're still going to stay where you're at,
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to be detached from the possibilities. And in terms of being more of an emerging business, what are some things
Mm-hmm.
that you would recommend?
When you're dealing with a bank or a Schedule A bank, there needs to be certain revenue, like you have to be generating cash flow to really unlock these tools that the bank have in place to help scale a business. You need to be starting to have that strong financial management of the business and understanding, so that even before you're in a really great financial position, you're documenting everything, you're filing your taxes properly, you're getting this experience. Because we had a situation where a company had scaled really, really quickly. It grew really, really fast. Their finance department was a mess, and they were in the process of selling their business, and it halted the sale of the business for 2 years. And the bank was on one side of the equation. It wasn't. We weren't. The bank wasn't the reason that the business got halted in the sale. They hadn't filed taxes in, I think, like a year or two, because they had just scrambled everything up so much. Um, so I guess I bring up that story to just sort of scale it back. Like from the beginning, you have to be putting in that effort. And if it's not your strength or your suit, hiring somebody, even if it's a fractional CFO, even if it's somebody who comes in part time to just do the right financial management, like you need to start to have that, because when you hit that breaking point where you're starting to want to get products from a bank, go to investors, sell your business, whatever that point is. If you don't have that track record, if you just dump a bunch of data in front of somebody, they don't know how to make sense of it, and that's why the financial statements are in the way that they are. And and that's communicated through strong financial management and strong reporting.
And there's another aspect to it that it's kind of like, okay, if I focus too much on making income for my business, then I'm not focusing on what's important, which is the art and the creativity and whatever is like the mission of it, right? But I want everyone to know that that is a misconception, that it is as important as creating whatever you're creating, because it will make you feel way more accomplished
Mm-hmm.
if you are creating income through what you want to do. And it doesn't need to be just one thing. Like every successful artist and creative professional that I've learned from in terms of like how they're doing their business right, they always pay attention to the business side of their creation. It's amazing that you care about it. And since the beginning, even as little as just registering your business.
Yeah.
Like a lot of creatives don't even have that, and it's important.
I think I just want to reiterate just how important it is to get connected with professionals that possess skills that you aspire or require for your business, and not being afraid to ask questions, and making sure that those partnerships are with people that you do get along with and that you share a vision with. Because as you were speaking, I was thinking about one of my clients who's done extremely well, and they're two guys, both vastly different. One's very, very creative, and the other guy is, and he's introverted, and the other guy's like this extrovert, and he's the king of business development within his world. And just watching them two very different people, there's just so much value in that teamwork and that collaboration. And at first, you kind of need to be a generalist. You kind of need to know everything. You got to learn everything about finance, everything about everything. But eventually, as you scale, you start to being able to employ the people that have skills that you don't. So understanding all of the components of the business are key at first, and then you're going to establish which components you want to outsource, or be able to allocate those responsibilities to other people. So it's not an end all, but you still, no matter how high you get, you need to understand how it all works. So finding the joy in creating, like having that creative drive to learn what all of these parts up front, understanding that you're not going to have to shoulder all of it forever, but it is going to be something you need to know forever. You're going to have to understand them thoroughly, and there's no other way to do that than to just sort of dive in and get that knowledge. Um, so I think that's what I would leave it.
I love that. And I just remember that you mentioned how um, just choosing to even hire someone like part time, or just like even just receiving mentorship. There are so many free resources out there.
Yeah.
Um, I've mentored in like websites that are dedicated to free mentorship.
Yeah.
I also provide part time services, or just like on contract services to, especially for startups and like or companies that outgrew their finance department, which happens very often in creative industries. I think it's about differentiating um, two words, and I learned about this not only because I had to learn more about my English vocabulary, but because it's part of the money type quiz that I have on my website. There are two words that appear in it. One is detached, and the other one's unattached. And there's a difference. When we are detached from something, we basically just have no relationship or whatsoever with it.
Yeah.
And that can create a lot of conflict. But when we are unattached, it's like, you know what? We're not attached with the result or the outcome of this. It's more like I am involved, but I am not disturbed by the outcome of it not happening the way I was expecting it to happen. And that is very much related to mindfulness and like that feeling of, okay, I can't control this, but I'm still wanting to be part of it, right? When detached is like, I choose not to.
Right.
And that is negative. You know what I mean? It can be very negative because it's like, I don't want to. It's already a no. So just switching our mindset just with vocabulary. It's like, okay, I don't want to be detached. I want to be unattached.
Yeah,
That makes it.
I like that.
I hope this episode inspired you to continue charting your path to prosperity, one creative decision at a time. Remember to subscribe, follow, and share TMAP, the Money Awareness Podcast, on your preferred podcast platform and social media. Until next time.